Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, November 19, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what that's been like in your ear recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at what the U.S. National Hurricane Center is showing on their 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We can see that they've highlighted a brand new spot right there across the south central Caribbean Sea. This area now has a 10% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days as well as within the next 2 days. According to the Hurricane Center, a small area of low pressure located over the central Caribbean Sea is producing limited shower and thunderstorm activity. Dry air in the surrounding environment is likely to prevent significant development of the system while it drifts slowly westward during the next few days. So we can see if we actually take a look at what the supercomputer models are showing. So we're going to be looking at the GFS, and we're only going to be going out to the next 168 hours, which is the next 7 days, just like what the Hurricane Center would do. So on the Euro model, we're just going to be focusing on this area right here across the south central Caribbean Sea to the south of Jamaica. And we start to see the green and the L that represent that area of low pressure, even with a contour line that shows the low level spin. And going out in time, we see what it does. We see that it's right here producing a small amount of greens that represent rainfall to the south of the island, and then all of that pushes towards the west, maybe to enter into portions of Central America, Honduras, Nicaragua, and then there's nothing left across the Caribbean by the end of the 168 hours. What does the GFS model show? We're going to be looking at the next 7 days as well. So we see that area of low pressure right here to the south of Jamaica, and that should be where it's located by about, let's say, 12Z on Wednesday. When we calculate that, that's 7 a.m. on Wednesday. And then we see that it's about to hit portions of Central America as early as 1 a.m. on Friday. But the thing is, we don't see a lot of deep convection with it. We don't see the dark greens or the yellows or anything like that. Just like what the U.S. National Hurricane Center stated, there is a lot of dry air, and we can see the dry air is represented by the yellows, the reds, and we know this map is representing the dry air, not necessarily Saharan dust. This is the Saharan dust map, and we can see all of the browns that represent the Saharan dust right there, especially the darker shades of brown, touching all the way from Africa into portions of the main development region and the eastern Caribbean. It's not Saharan dust that's going to be affecting the system and preventing the development. It's a lot of dry air, and we can see that there's a lot of it across the Gulf of Mexico, the Greater Antilles, the Western Caribbean, off the east coast of the United States. And we can see that both maps are different. The dry air map, and this is the Saharan dust map. So we don't see Saharan dust across the Western Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico or off the southeast coast, but this is exactly where we see the dry air. And it makes sense considering that if we take a look at the wind shear map, let's see if we can find the wind shear. There isn't much wind shear that's going to be affecting this system. It's located in an area that's favorable for development. Lots of white. We know the wind shear is represented by those blues, the greens, yellows, oranges, reds, purples. The more colorful it gets, the more intense the wind shear gets. And we know the wind shear is what's responsible for destroying the clouds associated with these systems. So it's over an area that doesn't have much wind shear, so development should be possible. And we know how the sea surface temperatures are across the Caribbean, very warm at this time. So it's definitely going to be the very dry air. If it was a situation like what we had last week, when majority of the Caribbean was, embedded in a lot of blues that represent moist air, we can see all of that moist air displaced right now across sections of most of the, let's say, east central Caribbean at this time. We're starting to get more of that dry air coming in from the north, right here, from the southwestern Atlantic all the way down into portions of the Greater Antilles, the Central Caribbean, which is why it's gonna be, prevented from developing. However, Rainfall is still in the forecast, and if we take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast, this map from the Euro is going all the way up until 00 on Saturday. When we calculate that, that's 7 p.m. on Saturday, and we can see the blues that represent rainfall to the south of the island, not to mention some slight purples in there. So there is still some amount of rainfall to be had across the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, but we don't see much happening across the Greater Antilles, Cuba, Jamaica section of the Eastern Caribbean either. We see more and we have some lighter shades of greens, and we can see all of this represented by the key on the right. So we don't have much in the way of rainfall to receive from the system. That's according to the Euro. What does the GFS show? GFS is a little bit different, so showing some slight blues, maybe especially intersection of eastern Jamaica, and we see majority of the rainfall passing to the south of the island, just like what the Euro model had shown. So we see the consensus, we see some slight differences. Either way, we'll see exactly what unfolds. We know how these systems go, we know how these things go, especially when it comes to the modeling. Can show one thing now, and then tomorrow it's a different story. That's why we have to take it with a grain of salt and always remain as updated as possible, because we know how quickly the weather can change. Just like with potential tropical cyclone number 22, we saw that the models were predicting, oh, it's gonna hit Haiti, oh, it's gonna come back to Jamaica, oh, this, that. Every day there's a new run of the GFS, which is why it's important to stay updated, because we know these things can definitely change. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that trough that's still affecting portions of the Dominican Republic with sections of with some amount of showers and thunderstorms, and that trough is attached to that area of low pressure. So it's definitely the same system that has, induced an area of low pressure or formulated one across the Central Caribbean that's gonna be moving back towards the west. So it's definitely the same system, and another piece of it is trying to get its act together, but it's being prevented by that dry air. And we can see it even better on the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down. All the clouds associated with that trough that stretches all the way from northern section of North Atlantic all the way down into portions of Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and some more clouds right here associated with that area of low pressure right there to the north of Colombia, trying to get its act together. But as we can see, a lot of dry air is coming in from the north and west, and it is drying out the air in this area of the world, which is why the system is going to be struggling to develop. If we take a look at what was predicted in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, if you remember yesterday's video, remember that from eastern, central, and to western Jamaica, it was predicted to be quite a dry day. Now, eastern parishes were talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, central parishes were talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, western parishes were talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall. And what ended up happening? Today was a mostly partly cloudy or sunny day. We saw some clouds coming in from the north across sections of some northern parishes, some overcast skies, maybe one or two drizzle or dew rain. Got some of that into sections of St. Elizabeth and Manchester as well. And we saw that if we took a look at the infrared satellite images, or if we take a look at the current infrared satellite images, we do see those grays that still represent some amount of cloud cover across sections of some northern, central, and eastern parishes, but we don't see those colors at all. We don't have any high cold cloud tops that represent some strong thunderstorm activity. Nothing like that was taking place today. However, if we take a look at the Cuban Doppler radar images, we had some of these clouds getting heavy during the evening hours, seeing some greens right there off the coast of Cuba. Not the coast of Cuba, the coast of Portland, sorry. So we see some greens that represent light to moderate rainfall of the coast of Portland. Some greens here and there off the southern portion of St. Elizabeth. Don't pay any mind to those greens and yellows that we see elsewhere. That is definitely ground clutter. It's definitely a glitch. Sometimes we see the ground clutter and we get confused, but it's not necessarily rainfall at all. This is why we really need the Jamaican Doppler radar to be fixed. Hopefully they get that sorted out soon so that we can stop using the Cuban radar. As relates to what was happening across Jamaica for today in terms of the accumulated precipitation, we saw that majority of the rainfall is right across the northern and northeastern section of the island, just like what we saw on the satellite images just now, and we saw that it wasn't much in the way of rainfall, which explains those grays and those purples to show the low end of the rainfall kind of scale. And the live stream cam from See Jamaica's YouTube channel confirms the lack of rainfall for today, so it was definitely a sunny day. Taking a look at the crossroads cam, this is from about 8:12 a.m. We saw that it was sunny, skipping ahead to about 12:20, still having sunny skies across the entire island throughout the day. Even by about, let's say, 3:49 p.m., it was still sunny across the corporate area. And if you'd like to see some more of these live streams, feel free to visit See Jamaica's YouTube channel. They have more in the way of live streams, from Crossroads to Halfway Tree, the Kingston Harbor. So if you're interested in that, ensure that you go and subscribe. Alright, so taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can still have 26 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and by about 3 a.m. on Monday, early morning, temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 22 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we do see Jamaica embedded in some null colors right there. That's the 0. When we take a look at the key at the right, that represents 0. So we don't have the yellows that represent above normal temperatures or the blues that represent below normal temperatures. We're in the null phase, so that's definitely some normal or average temperatures. And we know the normal temperatures for the month of November across Jamaica are about 88 degrees Fahrenheit. When we take a look at the thermometer, 88 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So we already spoke about the dry air across majority of the western Atlantic, sections of the Gulf of Mexico, Western Caribbean, of the east coast of the United States. A lot of moist air across the central and northeastern portions of the Caribbean. More dry air across the main development region and Africa. Saharan dust, just like what we stated, those slight brown shades that stretches all the way from Africa into the main development region. Jamaica will not be getting in on any Saharan dust at all. As relates to the wave forecast, you see the blues around the island, and that's representative of, let's say, 1 meter wave height to 1.5 meter wave heights. We can see the key on the bottom right. We see that on both the Euro and the GFS models, and that's because the winds are not going to be that strong, maybe averaging 15 to 20 knots at most, as we can see by the greens coming in from the northeast across the island as well. And we see consensus on both the Euro and the GFS models with that. Either way, we don't have much in the way of wind shear across the Caribbean basin at all. As it relates to the sea surface temperatures, we already spoke about how warm they are, still having that El Nino across the eastern Pacific, and that's one of the reasons why we didn't have much in the way of tropical cyclones developing across the Caribbean at all. As it relates to the rainfall forecast for tomorrow, we do see that even before this hour, this is 6 p.m. Jamaica time on Monday, we're getting some amount of blues starting to pop up across sections of maybe Portland, St. Mir, sections of St. Thomas. And the thing is, before that, there isn't anything to show. Lots of whites that represent little to no rainfall at all. Maybe some partly cloudy conditions. Either way, it's in the evening hours that we start to see some blues that represent rainfall across the island. As relates to the accumulated precipitation forecast, you can see much of the same. The rainfall is forecast to four sections of northern and eastern parishes in Jamaica, only going up to 0.15 of an inch in terms of the rainfall totals. Either way, we're indeed grateful. We're going to be getting in on some slight rainfall for tomorrow. We're in the final month of our rainy season. We'll take all the rainfall that we can get before we enter the drier period of December through to April. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see that we don't have much happening across majority of the eastern Caribbean, majority of the northeastern sections of South America. Majority of the weather is right there across sections of northwestern Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, sections of Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, This indeed confirms what we just saw on the satellite images, not much in terms of rainfall, still having some amount of rainfall represented by the greens across sections of the eastern Dominican Republic. As relates to the Barbados radar, still don't have much in the way of rainfall across Barbados. Only one or two stray passing showers to the west and south of Barbados may be able to affect sections of St. Vincent, the Grenadines, sections of Grenada, and we don't have much going on across Trinidad and Tobago at all. Maybe some passing shower across Tobago, but not Trinidad at all. As it relates to the wider view of Doppler radar images, we don't have much happening across the rest of the basin. Florida, the Belize radar, the ABC Islands radar looking clear. Majority of the rainfall right there on the ABC Islands radar is to the north of the ABC Islands as well as to the south of the ABC Islands across sections of Venezuela. As relates to temperature forecast for tomorrow, average to some slightly above normal temperatures across majority of the Caribbean, way above normal temperatures as represented by those reds and the blacks across sections of the Gulf of Mexico and the eastern Mexico right there. And if we take a look at the Saharan dust forecast, only some slight browns represent the low end of Saharan dust scale across sections of the central and eastern Caribbean. The most dust is right there across sections of Africa as represented by those darker shades of browns. As relates to the wave forecast, we can see those light blues and some darker blues, and we see by the key at the bottom right that's representative of 0.5 to at least 1.5 meter wave heights, and that's because the winds are not going to be that strong, only averaging anywhere from 5 to at least 20 knots for majority of the Caribbean, coming in from the northeast for the most part, southeast for the eastern sections of the Caribbean, northeast across the Greater Antilles. We can also see the spin associated with that area of low pressure to the south of Haiti for tomorrow, and we can see the winds coming in from the south across the Gulf of Mexico, averaging maybe 20 to 25 knots. And we see that on both the Euro and the GFS models as well. As relates to the accumulated precipitation forecast, we don't see much in the way of rainfall at all for sections of majority of Jamaica, Cuba, the Bahamas, sections of Florida, Yucatan Peninsula, Belize, Honduras, sections of El Salvador, Guatemala, northern Nicaragua should be in the clear. It's southern and western Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, that's going to be getting in on that wet weather. Northwestern Venezuela, Colombia, sections of maybe Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, sections of Trinidad and Tobago, some isolated spots getting in on some amount of rainfall. Southern Venezuela, sections of Guyana, northern Suriname, northern French Guyana, and we can see that majority of the rainfall is still across sections of Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic for tomorrow. And we can also see that we're in the for some amount of rainfall across sections of the ABC Islands as well. I know some persons are going to be happy about that. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are forecasting the same thing. And when they're showing something similar like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.